Sorry, yeah.
I'm recording. Oh my God. Well, what a start to the podcast this is. So welcome back to the... I can't even start now because you were just asking me. This is my guest, by the way. I was just saying, so how do you start your podcast? What do you do? Well, this is it. I say, hello and welcome to the Barbell Bikini and Biz podcast. And you are joining me for a guest podcast. And I'm with a good friend of mine, Michelle, today. And we're going to be talking about all things... I try not to fluff this up. Endometriosis.
Absolutely,
I
endometriosis.
don't know what it is about that word, but I just can't say it. Every time I do it, it's like one of those tongue twisters, like
Well,
The
yeah,
reason I've got Michelle on is one, because she's got first-hand experience, so she'll know a heck of a lot more than I do. But most importantly is because of everything that's going on with myself. So if you've listened to a few podcasts ago, you'll know that I'm having issues with my cycle. Ever since I've gone on this journey to try and regain my cycle, I've become quite passionate about female hormonal health and
hmm
some of the negative things that can come as a side, so PCOS, endometriosis. I've done a bit of reading on them, but I only know the basics, which you listening may know yourself. So I thought, why not get an expert, someone who's been through the trenches, come out the other side, and is living, breathing proof that you can still absolutely smash life when going through these things. So, Michelle,
absolutely.
introduce
Yeah, well,
yourself, who you are, what you do, and you have to give
awesome.
3 fun facts about yourself. It is part of the
Three,
podcast.
three fun facts. Hey, I don't know about being fun, but anyway, thanks very much for having me on. Honestly, it's my pleasure to be. This is one of my things. In fact, it is Endometriosis Awareness Month in March.
Oh,
So it's
amazing.
going to be, yeah, it's very
Perfect
relevant.
timing.
It is. Well, I'm Michelle, for those that are listening. I am online coach, work with general population, bodybuilders, athletes, and yeah, you name it. If I basically transform physiques for a living. I'm getting a little bit of a reputation now. So thank you, Lucy, for working mainly with females with chronic illnesses, because of no more than my experiences myself. As I am an endometriosis warrior. So yeah, I've been struggling with endometriosis for, many years. I first was diagnosed in 2017 because I was just struggling with constant period pains. And in fact, my trigger point for endometriosis was a feeling of early labor
Oh,
pains.
wow.
I had 2 children at this point, so obviously, and I knew I wasn't pregnant. So I was just living with constant pain all the time, which obviously led me to the doctors. And then they started investigating, and it was the doctor that said it could well be endometriosis, because my first child, Max, he was born through cesarean section. So they basically were suspicious that it could well be from that, because funny enough, endometriosis, it is very common, and 1 in 5 women do have it. It can grow at any time, and it also can be genetic as well, so it can actually be in your family. So if you know someone in your family that has got it, and we do all walk around with endometriosis, every single female, because there's no way that we can't, because it actually comes from your period, and it spills out into your atmosphere. It goes up through your fallopian tubes the wrong way, and that's effectively what the pain is. It's unfortunately, it's named as like internal bleeding, because there's no way of that escaped blood going anywhere. So what it does is it bleeds inside the atmosphere, and it around your pelvis and stuff. So every time you have a period, that's the same message that sends to your period sends to that blood too, that's in your atmosphere. So effectively, that is bleeding at the same time, and that is what the pain is. And endometriosis, obviously, if you're having periods all the time, that's why you're going to experience more pain than others. But some women don't go that, they go undiagnosed, because you could go along your life with not even feeling what, and you don't even know you've got endometriosis, and you could be riddled with it. It's just everybody has a different pain barrier. Everybody struggles with endo in different ways. There's, my biggest one as well was when I was having sex. It would absolutely, I couldn't, because mine was mainly found in the pelvis area. So basically it was so painful. There's so many women as well that's struggling with this. That's why I'm mentioning it, and I'm not shy to talk about sex neither, because we all do it. So I'm all right with it. And also it has a knock-on effect on your relationship, in the bedroom, because, the women are shying away from that because they don't want to be in pain. And if their partner doesn't understand for obvious reasons, that can then affect you in your relationship. And that's why it's really important to make people aware that actually it might not be you, and if you're suffering in silence when you're having sex, obviously with the pain, then you need to go and see somebody. Because as soon as I did and mentioned that straight away, they were like, we suspect it's endometriosis. And ways of looking out for signs and symptoms and stuff like that. I'll basically, they can't actually go in and, they can't detect it. The best way to do that is through, I always get this word wrong, laparoscopy.
Another one you mean.
Yeah, another one. There you go.
That one.
Yeah. Which is a camera. That's a better word. So yeah, they can do internals, they can do internal ultrasounds, and they still can't find endometriosis. So if they do still suspect it, then the best way to do is for them to go in and investigate. And that is the best way. And then that's what happened to me. Soon as they went in, obviously they found that I was completely riddled, mainly on the left-hand side, because I got a lot of pain, like shooting pains, stabbing pains through my ovaries. And they said it was all on the left side. They also said, so going back to what I said before regarding the early pains of labour, that feeling, because obviously I know what labour's like. That was through endometriosis sticking to my uterus, and it was sending like signals, like that, obviously to set that hormone off. It's so smart, like the pure human hormone. And do you know what? It absolutely intrigues me to find out more about the human body, because how does your body know that? It's just mental. So anyway, they sorted all of that out. And I don't no longer have early labour pains, which is great. I know. So yeah, they've removed. I've had my second operation. I'm actually 13 weeks post-operation at this point. So I had 2017 and then 2020. So there was like, it always reoccurs. You see, it seems to be every 4 years. For them to go in and operate and investigate, because obviously it builds up over time with period. And but I was lucky this time. They did say to me, we've not found any further growth of endometriosis, but they did find cysts on my left ovary, which obviously they removed for me. So as a preventer, the best thing that you can do for them, they need to basically stop your period if you're diagnosed with endometriosis. But that, of course, comes with difficulty, because not everybody wants their period stopping, because they may want children, or they don't want any interventions. But personally for me, I got the coil fitted straight away in 2017, and it's shown that over the 4 years that did work, because when they've gone back in, because they suspected obviously it was growing, they didn't find anything. So for me, the coil's working. But I'm at an age where I've had 2 children now, so that isn't my priority to obviously go. I can put a preventer in and not have a period, but it's not a solution for every female. And that's why there's loads of other things that you can do. There's herbal stuff. They will treat you hormonally. It depends to what extent you're struggling with your periods and struggling. If you suspect endometriosis, then that they'll start looking into these methods, how depending on the individual, basically.
No, well, thank you for that. You've literally gone over pretty much all of the cue points that I had. So I love it when that happens. It's like I don't even need to cue you at all. Fantastic. But
Exactly.
Legend. Right, podcast over. See you next week, guys. Now
I've got loads to talk about. There's loads,
Oh, there is.
Honestly, I didn't want to take over your podcast, so go for it.
No, well, let's go back and let's go sort of over these points just in a little bit more depth, because like you said, I know the basics of what it is. And if someone came to me and said, you know, I've just been dying, like a client or someone came to me and said I was struggling with it, what do I do? I will be a bit like, I don't know enough. So a lot of people listening to this probably have a brief awareness, but unless maybe they've gone through it themselves or they've had family or friends, again, they'll be like me who just know the basics, the ins, the outs.
Yeah.
You did explain it in sort of brief, but can you actually just full on explain what it actually is in terms of what endometriosis is, where it comes from, and sort of what impact it does have internally? Because like you said, you've had to have these ops. Yeah.
So basically, endometriosis is tissue, which is the blood that you spill. So instead of you having, so for example, if you have a period and you're bleeding, it's basically some escapes through the fallopian tubes, so it goes back up through your fallopian tubes, and they what they do is them tiny, they honestly visibly, if you Google what endometriosis actually looks like, it is so tiny, it's unbelievable. Because when they show me my endometriosis, it was like, what are you pointing to, doc? And it was like tiny little lines, and that's what they remove. So it almost looks like, it's like a line, and they can be tiny little spots, and that's the blood. That's the blood that's spilled out into your fallopian tube. So it's just, I guess it's your, it's just working the opposite way than it should be. So you're not draining that period. So, but the problem with endometriosis, once it's spilled out into your atmosphere, like it sticks to your ovaries, it sticks to your pelvis, and that's why we get a load of back pain, a load of tummy, it feels like a dull, constant period pain, and not everybody suffers with heavy periods with it. It doesn't necessarily mean that you've got endometriosis, by the way. I did not have heavy periods at all. My periods remained exactly the same. It was the pain that I was getting. So it's like a chronic period pain is the best way to explain it. And, that's obviously difficult to live with without pain management, if you like. So controlling endometriosis is 100%. If you get somebody who's coming to you, the first question that you should ask them really, are you pain managing? Because when you're under management for your pain, that's when we can manage better, obviously, as humans. But if you've got someone and it's just not kicking it, take it in the eyes of the professionals, start referring them. Well, have you thought about going to see a doctor? Because, I've got a friend who's suffered with endometriosis, similar. I think you should go and start, because when you go to the doctors, that whole investigation takes a long time.
That's what I was going to ask you about, because I know for a fact what I'm going through, it's been such a slow, I've gone through it through COVID, so it's even slower. But I was just going to ask about sort of your experience with how slow it was from that first initial something's not quite right here to then being eventually told this is probably what's going on. How long did it take? How many tests? How many referrals?
Well, initially what they do, straight away they do an internal, that's what they look for. And if they can't find anything there, some doctors will say they feel like they call them nodules, and that's if you were to actually feel endometriosis, it would be hard inside because it's blood. So the blood's gone hard. So they go internal, they start the whole process of asking you, obviously, your signs and symptoms. And, there's apps, if you read up on, like you say, if you think you've got it, read up on Google. There's things like, are you seeing blood in your wee or in your stools? There's loads of different symptoms. The biggest one, obviously, is the period pain, back pain, anxiety, depression. There's absolutely loads that you can, you just Google it, like you say, and get the signs and symptoms. But from there, the best thing that you want to hear your doctor say is you want to be referred to your gynecologist, because the doctors can't do anything. So the biggest goal walking in that surgery, you want them to refer you. So I'm not telling you to fake it until you make it. But what I'm saying is, it is a long process. So if I was you, I would actually do a little bit of homework, put it on a little bit. I know that sounds mad, but if you suspect endometriosis and you really do suffer with bad pain, obviously don't put yourself under unnecessary risk, but you want to get to the appointment with the gynecologist. The gynecologist will kind of suss you out as to, what level, and do they really think that you've got endometriosis. They'll ask you all kinds of questions. What's your lifestyle like? Are you struggling with it every day? How is it impacting your lifestyle? I mean, for me, that was a biggie because obviously I work in the fitness industry, and, I'm sure that plenty are listening to this are. So you're a PT, you've got to demonstrate the exercise. So I'm sure you're going to get into uncomfortable, could well be embarrassing, because obviously, you're having periods and stuff like that. So that's a thing to think about. Yes, it is affecting my lifestyle or not. And they will just basically prioritize you. It's from the gynecologist, some refer you to get an internal scan, ultrasound, MRI. Not many. I never had an MRI, always an ultrasound scan internally and over the tummy.
Oh yeah, that one's nice, isn't it? When you've got to drink all the water and you're there like, fucking hell, I need a wee. Hurry up.
Oh, I know. Well, I'm used to them. Obviously, I've had 2 kids as well, so but that's one as well. I was going to mention about. I don't mean to go off track, but they actually said once they started the investigation with mine, they said it actually started growing when they opened me up after my cesarean section with Max. So that's when mine started, because obviously I got the sticky endo on my uterus, which would never have gone anywhere if I actually didn't go in and get that removed. So that's, and something definitely, hopefully will help, the ladies listening that have had children as well, because it does happen.
Yeah. No, 100%. Yeah. And I totally back you on the going to your GP and being quite assertive and pushy for sure, because I'll just tell you about my situation, Michelle, and I'm sure the podcast listeners, if they've listened to the previous podcast, which I'm sure you have, because if you haven't and you're listening to this, then that's just a bit rude, really. But with me, they, it's been really slow. It could be this, could be that. We'll do some blood tests. Well, they actually did blood tests on me, told me they were fine, but when I actually looked at them, they weren't.
Right.
Like, my estrogen's below postmenopausal levels. Like, it's ridiculous. And they said it's fine. So you've got to push, and you've got to make sure that you are following things up and check. Like, now I'm referred to a gynecologist. They referred me on to another gynecologist, and they said, if you don't hear anything in 3 weeks, get in touch. Because they are not going to get in touch with you.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a pushy person, but in this situation, you've got to be pushy. And like Michelle says, you've got to push it a bit, because unless you are, something that they would class as serious, they're probably just going to fob you off a bit.
Absolutely. I mean, I was in a bit of a different situation. I know this sounds completely selfish, and probably forgive me for this, but I had no time to waste, right? I wanted me cake and I wanted to eat it, because I know this sounds mad, but because I compete, I wanted to be operated on during off season. So I couldn't wait round for hospital appointments just to come on my doorstep. What I did was, it wasn't sneaky. I was just pushing it. I was like, okay, tick boxes when I went to my gynecologist. Yeah, getting that. Yeah, getting that. And the reason why I did that is because I knew I obviously had problems, and I wanted them to go in, fix me. And in fact, when they went in, they found a mass size of a 2p, which doesn't sound much, but the 2 pence, that's a lot of tissue that was raveled. They got rid of that, obviously got rid of all my endo. They got rid of whatever was going on with my uterus. Now, once they'd gone in, I obviously recovered. Takes about that took me about, 12 to 15 weeks to recover from. It wasn't an easy recovery, but I had quite major surgery all at once. But the initial push, they would have left it if I wouldn't have said, like what I did. And I'll be honest, like, I didn't have that time, because otherwise my competitive stage would have been waiting, and my health's obviously really important. I get that. But yeah, I was just selfish and just kept pushing it every time I went to the doctors. And in fact, this is another tip for you. I rang the gynecologist PA all the time, each week. How far am I on the list? Can you tell me, please? I've just spoken to my doctor. My symptoms are getting worse. And what they do is you start becoming that, oh shit, that's that patient again. But you know what? That patient again gets you up the ladder, because it gets her off a seat and it gets her to go and check to see where you are. So in the end, I come like, now obviously I'm on my second op and the gynecologist knows me. It's like I'm part of the family there. He doesn't even have to tell him when he goes in, he knows what he's looking for. It's funny. But you know, the PA said to me, if you're on a waiting list and you've been on one for ages, right? So this is the scenario I'm talking, if you're a patient and you've been waiting so long, she told me to go to my doctor and ask them to, trying to think of the bloody name of it now, extra bite a letter, send a letter to basically say that my patient's really struggling. She's blah, blah, blah. She's this and she's that. I'll tell you now, within a week, I had a date. I got a date for my operation. So that's when I had my second op, which was the 8th of December. I started moaning in October. You know, it didn't take me long. No. So, you know, I did that because I know I needed to get it done and get it out the way. So it just goes to show, if you do leave something, it's not going to come to you.
No.
And it's the same, you know, people might leave it for all different reasons because they're scared or whatever. But just, if you're living with chronic health issues like that, get it done and get yourself sorted out, because endometriosis is reoccurring. It doesn't go away. There's no cure for it. And I'll tell you now, they don't know why endometriosis is caused neither. There's no real research to say why we get endometriosis, actually. That like a scientific fact. So it just happens, it just starts growing. But yeah, that's my best advice. Just push, make a few little fibs. But you know,
moral of the story, when it comes to period health, be a Karen. Be Karen. Be Karen.
Yeah.
You just got the biggest Karen, the biggest, I want to speak to your manager person that we all hate, but you've got to, because it's one of those things that you'll feel a bit pushy, but once you've got that one, like you've got that date, you'll be glad you did it, because it's like, well, at least I've got somewhere now. And it's one of the most frustrating things ever, just waiting around, isn't it? Because it's just not knowing or suffering, you know, potentially in your case, if you are dealing with pains and stuff, it's just ongoing suffering, which you can shorten by just pushing a bit, because it's awful. It happens in so many things in the medical profession. Mental health, it happens a lot with. If you don't push to get seen, you're just going to be sat on a waiting list for months and months and months. And it's tragic that this is the case, but
well, they told me, and I don't know if it's the case with your gynecologist, but there's no halt because of the pandemic on you know, gynecologists and stuff. There's just no. So if they're telling you that there's no appointments or anything, you know, that it might not be true. So I would definitely ring up the PA of your gynecologist and ask them the current situation. You know, again, where am I on the list? Can you tell me? And just keep doing it once a week until you become, like you say, a Karen. And they start helping you. Yeah, honestly, this PA actually rang me afterwards. She goes, Michelle, I've got some great news for you. You're going to be so happy. We're going to get you in before the 1st of December. I went, honest to God, that's amazing news. Like, honestly, thank you so much. And it was just from ringing them up and not leaving it.
Yeah.
You know, you know, going back to my first operation, I remember saying to the over recovery, I remember waking up and I remember saying to the day nurse, like, oh my God, I feel like shit here. Literally, I feel like my bits are on fire. What the hell have they done? And she went, just settle down, Michelle. You know, they've done like quite a lot of surgery, so just take your time. And the first thing, that I hadn't competed at this point, by the way, my op was in February and I was due to compete in September on my first ever competition. I was like, are you joking me? Like, how long is this going to take to recover? She went, oh, about 12 weeks. I went, I'm doing my first bikini competition in a few months. She went, you won't be doing that, Michelle. And you know what? I seen her 4 years later. So look, Christmas time, obviously, when I had it done, I went, I've competed, and she went, sorry, excuse me, I don't know, whatever. And I said, you don't remember me, do you? I said, you know what, you were the best thing for me. You actually said to me, you won't be getting on stage in like a couple of months. And I said, and I did. And she went, did you? Obviously showing her the pictures, which are on my social media. And she was like, oh my God, you're a machine. You're amazing.
Amazing.
But I know. So, going back to originally when, you started and you said that, what you can do, even when you do live with endometriosis or chronic health issues, it can be done. It's just through pain management, setting yourself some goals and not allowing it to control you is the really important thing here. Like, it's so easy, we can go out of control, but if you've got a control over your health through nutrition and through the right guidance and the right support network, it's easy achievable. Like, I did that in a couple of months. I had my abs out, of course, on stage and stuff like that's not for everybody. Doesn't mean that's what you're going to go off and do, but if you want to get in shape, to look better, to feel better, because you're in this pain constantly, it doesn't help your mood, doesn't help how you feel mentally. But if you've got a goal and you want to go somewhere and achieve something, definitely have something in mind. It will help you along the way with your pains.
Absolutely. So that leads on quite nicely into sort of the actual surgery itself. So what's involved? Obviously, if you don't have to go into complete details, if you want to keep it a bit,
Oh, I'm completely open and honest.
That's fine. We're open and honest on the podcast in terms of what it entails, and then obviously interesting to know as well what it involves from like the recovery aspect, because there might be someone listening to this who's due to go through it, or maybe they're thinking they might have endometriosis and they're thought of like surgeries and stuff. Especially, I know someone who probably should be listening to this because she's asked loads of questions. She's thinking she may be going through something similar, and she's wanting to compete soon as a bikini athlete. So she might have some anxieties about competing. So what does the surgery involve? What does the recovery involve? And sort of tips in terms of not necessarily speeding up the process, but you defied the odds, so to speak, when you were told, you're not going to get on stage in this time. No chance.
Best thing she ever said to me. Like, I'm like, that, are you joking? And I can remember it like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
She like literally, that face, obviously I can pull it, but people listening can't see. Like, are you messing? You're not getting on stage. Like, sit back down, eat your toast. No, honestly, love, I might be smashed right now on drugs, but I am getting on stage. Like, and that was it. But in terms of recovery, it will completely depend on to what extent your surgery is found, because the first thing that they're doing, if it's your first time, they're going in to investigate. So what you want to make sure is before they knock you out, you're going to have that discussion with your surgeon or the gynecologist, if you like, that you're absolutely certain you're going in to investigate. This is another top tip. You're going in to investigate, but you are definitely, if you see something, you've got my, give me the consent form, remove it. Don't wake me up to tell me I've got that, because sometimes that's what they do. Just make sure that they're going in and they're actually going to, if they find what they find, they're going to deal with it. They're going to remove it. And you've had that conversation, obviously, before you put you to sleep. But in terms of recovery, so my first one, about 12 weeks, first 3 to 4 weeks felt like I'd been run over by a bus. But that's just because of the extent of it, that, I had a lot to deal with. But in general, mine was 4th degree, which they come in different degrees, and that just depends on how much endometriosis they find, obviously. So they labeled mine as like quite severe. So yeah, you just got to recover. If you can imagine what they're doing inside, they're cutting the blood out. So then then there's scar tissue. That's got to go somewhere. Obviously that hurts. Plus the cameras that they're putting in, it goes through your tummy, your belly button. They make some tiny little incisions, left side, right side of your abdomen, and then they did it just below my bikini line, and then they went in through my belly button. So the worst for me. I mean, it's tiny, tiny little pencil marks you can't even see. But the belly button one, wow, it was so painful. You know, like when you're moving around, when you're recovering from that, weirdly, it feels like you've got a constant knife inside your belly button. That's quite hard to recover from. But it just takes time, that's all. Because obviously that, you know, they've cut it open. So surgery in general obviously takes a while to recover. But the second op, I was away at 4 weeks. I was done. All they did really was remove little bits that obviously was scattered around. And then they removed a couple of cysts from my ovaries, which was giving me the stabbing pain in the left-hand side. That's another thing, you know, obviously we can speak about, but polycystic ovaries, a lot of females struggle with that. That really affects your periods. Not everybody knows they've got them. We all struggle differently. So we pass them naturally. And if we don't pass them naturally, there are different forms of cysts as well. I couldn't tell you scientifically what the names are, but there are different types of cysts. We can pass on our own, but we've got to get some taken out surgically. So that's another subject as well, what does affect periods massively. So you might well be suffering with that and you just don't know it. But likelihood with that one is they can actually detect it through internal ultrasound. You know, but they couldn't with me, and I'll be open and honest. Here we go, because they actually diagnosed the woman who did my internal. She actually said, "You've got a congested vagina." Honest to God, I was like, no one's told me I've got a congested vagina before. And basically, right, I don't care, I'll just be open and honest, that is caused because I've had 2 children, I've got scar tissue going on, and I've had a lot of work done, obviously, because of that's where mainly my endometriosis was found. So it was just congested. So they couldn't work out, you know, that I had cysts on my ovaries. So the scan told me that I didn't have any. But when the surgeon went in, I had like 4, and he left one because he knew that was going to disperse itself. So that was the left side stabbing pain. But again, I didn't have any problems with periods because I've got a coil fitted. So, but that saved me. And the biggest must that you've got to control your period of endo, otherwise it won't go away. Yeah. It won't go away. So, you know, we all react differently, as we know, on birth control. It stops period and stuff like that. This is why I'll never have a period. You know, it can actually result in hysterectomy. So, you know, you've got to get it sorted out. And that's the biggest thing. People, if they don't sort it now and they keep putting it off, you know, you're going to end up hysterectomy. And, you know, nobody wants that unless, you know, my opinion about that is, you know, I don't want anyone to take me baby box away from me because I just don't. I'm a woman.
Sure, right, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't want that.
No, I was going to sort of ask like why it's important to make sure it's sorted. So what are the sort of key symptoms then in terms of, I know everyone's symptoms are different and some people will show some and not others, but what are sort of the main red flags? Because people have issues with the menstrual cycle, but not necessarily sure what it is. They might just think, oh, mine are quite heavy, or maybe my pains are slightly worse, you know, because everyone's are different. So people might leave it sort of undiagnosed because they just think, oh, well, maybe it's just me, my periods are a bit off. What are some of the key things to actually be aware of and think, okay, maybe this needs to get checked out?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, like you say, number 1 is your period. So, you know, are you struggling with your periods, pelvic pain, back pain, and a constant dull period pain? That's the biggie, because endometriosis is periods, you are bleeding. So, and it's mainly it's more painful every time you have a period, because you're not just in pain because of your period cycle, you're then in pain because your internal is bleeding because of the past endo, the blood that's built up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, 100%.
So, you know, for me, the biggest thing, obviously, you need to, you know, detect these signs and symptoms. Are you seriously having them all the time? Are you thinking at the back of your head, God, why have I always got period pains? You know, some women struggle in the back, that's because it hangs around by the pelvis. So, that's obviously a big, massive indicator. Now, one thing that I wanted to mention, which you've just mentioned about the lady in terms of competing and fitness, and I get asked this question all the time. So, can I lift weights? And
that was one question I got, the implications on training and nutrition.
Yeah. Okay, there you go. Are you okay? Go ahead.
So you don't even need this. It's like you've read this script and you've just sort of memorized all the questions. Like, I'm going to impress her here and just basically reel off all the questions without her even asking me.
Chuck that in the bin. But the biggest thing is, yes, absolutely. And, so endometriosis or any chronic health, ladies' issues, it's not going to change. Like, if anything, it's going to help you then. If you're doing exercises, it's going to, make you feel better. It's going to give you all of, the feeling that you want. You're going to look better in the mirror, lifting weights, as you know, Lucy, the background of it. So it's going to prevent menopause, early set menopause, osteoporosis, because when we are lifting weights, we are building osteoblasts in our bones. And, as women, we are generally softer in our bones and stuff because we have to be, because of birth. So we need to make sure we're building these, fundamental osteoblasts and stuff. And the only way to, to do that, and that's what weightlifting, if you go back to many years ago, that's why we lift, and that's why it's really important for ladies to actually do a little bit of lifting to prevent endometriosis or, or osteoporosis and stuff like that. So it never, ever will affect training. If anything, it's just going to make you feel better, because if you go back to why endometriosis, it's because of period. It's not because you're lifting weights or because you're training. Or the only reason why it should affect your training is if you're in that much of a state of pain, then you can't train, because when you get that really horrible period and you're like, I can't go to training today because I'm in so much pain. So that goes back down to pain management. So get your pain under some sort of control for pain management, and you'll be able to train better, because when you're not in pain, you can train.
When you're not in pain, you can train.
You can train.
Put yourself in a lot of pain while you train.
Lifting weights does not make it any worse. It's not going to make it go away. It's not going to, make it increase more. It's period. You've got that as a female, so it doesn't matter. Hopefully that has come out in the way I wanted it to. Does that make sense?
It definitely does. And actually what you've just said then again touches on to another question which I've been asked. You've definitely seen this. It's kind of weird actually how you've literally just reeled them all off. And it was, I got two questions that kind of covered the same thing. And it was basically, one of them says, apart from hormones and I can't read my own writing. Jesus Christ, Lucy, why are you like this? Hormone tablets and surgery, that's what it says. Is there anything you can do to manage it? And the other question was, how can you sort of manage symptoms?
So what you're asking me, is there any pills or?
Well, I think what's happened with this person is she's basically being put on some hormone tablets to sort of try and control and regulate it, and potential surgery. And the other person's just sort of asking sort of what you can do. So when you've said about pain management and dealing with it, besides from like the surgeries and stuff, like how do you go about dealing with it day to day, week to week, month to month?
Yeah, right. Okay. So yeah, of course, there is no quick fix. As you know, it's reoccurring endo. So without surgery, if you've got it, you need surgery to get rid of it. But we can control it and we can prevent it. Is that some doctors will put you on a hormonal cycle of 3 to 6 months before they actually get. Is the typical go to the doctor, to be honest. I did it the first time round. I'll be honest, completely wasted my time. So I waited, I was sitting there 3 months taking with in fact, they double up on the pill. because again, they're trying to stop your period because that's the whole point to it. So they're not, they're a short-term fix, they're not a long-term. Oh, did you go off?
So weird.
Have you got the upgraded bit where it stays on, or have you got
It's
40
fine, it's
minutes?
still recording, so we
Oh,
keeping it real, people. This is what happens when you have cheap broadband.
it did go off, didn't it?
You know what? We've
I was
actually
in
got
full-
Sky.
I was in
Sky's not
full
bad, but I
flow.
think it's where we are. It's just bad. So we've complained,
Right.
but they seem to say, "Oh no, it's fine," and yet here we are having issues
Yeah,
like
full
this.
flow there, weren't we? You still there?
I am. It's just Sky. Why are you doing this? Why? You know, we were going so well. Everything was going so well. You just had to ruin it.
I've got Virgin Media, and they're meant to be the best, and I still get cut out, so don't even worry about it. It's just technology,
21st century. Shocking, isn't it?
Yeah. So we were talking about pills, and the best
I
one
don't
that
remember
I
what we were
found was
talking
the
about. Everything just
Conflam.
went. It was like something from a movie. Everything just went ooh, and then cut out.
I think I was telling people to take drugs.
And there we go. Leave it at that. End the podcast.
Yeah,
Take
no.
drugs, you'll be fine. See you later.
Yeah, no, I was saying how addictive they can be because, you know, obviously, if you're in that much pain, you know, I found that Pronstan really worked for me, and they're mainly for period pains and stuff. You can take as many paracetamols and ibuprofen if you want, but they're short-term. They're a short-term fix.
Yeah.
A long-term, you know, I mean, in the end, what I used to do is, I'll be honest, again, not selfishly, but I just used to take my pills around training. So, you know, I wasn't taking them constantly all the time, but I was basically taking them before I went training and then after, so I could recover better. But that's just the way I lived with it.
Yeah.
You know, I'll be honest now, I don't get, because I'm only like 13 weeks post operation, I've not had any pains. So I'm sure it's going to start creeping back and stuff, and I'll get there, but who knows? You know, I just want to compete. I just want to compete now.
Okay. When's the next plans to compete then? When are you wanting to go next?
Well, to be honest, because this is like my 4th season now. So what I was thinking, because of the way things are going, I'm thinking about going out early next year, because I've not had any real good run on my off season. Of course, we're at home. We can do I've done my best with what we've got. But then nothing beats, you know, in the gym. No, so sure. I don't know if to sit on the fence this year, and I've got a couple of athletes going out in September anyway. Amazing. So I'm, you know, I basically have a little look at what the competition is, because obviously our physiques are massively changed at the minute, where, you know, I've got no doubt. I mean, some of my athletes are coming in a bit softer, you know, things are changing. We don't know. We've had a whole year. So you've got competitors that have had access to great form of whatever they've had. Some have not been able to train at all. You know, we're all in different situations because of the pandemic. So I do not know what the competition is going to be like. It's not going to be the same. But what is going to be interesting is next year, the competition hopefully is going to be, it's going to flip. It's going to, you know, be competitive. You know, we're going to get into the gym. I want to go back out, making sure that I've got enough, you know, and I've made enough improvements, because I'm currently 4th in my category in the country, leaving the British finals from sounds so long ago, like 2019, but that was the last time we all went on stage, you know. So because we've skipped a year, and I was 4th the previous year too. So you know, it's just in the difference in obviously competitors that I've stood on stage with. But I'm not getting any younger. I'm 40 this year, so I don't want to go on stage until I'm undeniable. And that's what I'm doing personally.
Amazing. Is that with PCA, Two Bros?
Two Bros. I'm still going for the British title for the PCA.
Amazing.
I've been chasing that for a couple of years now. I need to complete that mission. But I will be competing with the Two
80
Bros.
80 years old, still competing. I'm not finished until I get that British title.
Yeah, I'm not hanging my heels up yet, still on my heels.
Walking on stage with Zimmer
Yeah.
frame. I'm not losing this time.
No, I'm not. I'm definitely not, I tell you. I am very competitive. I'm not going to lie. I think that's why, I love seeing others win trophies through what I've done as well. And that's why I'm a prep coach. I love that side in it. And that's why, I do specialize in bodybuilding because, again, that's where my passion is. I obviously love stage. I love the feeling of it. And that's just the way it is. Hopefully get on stage next year. But like you say, I'm looking forward to seeing the rest of this season. If it gets some athletes out, that'll be amazing.
Nice to go watch some shows this year. I missed that last year. I love going to watch them, even if I don't know anyone doing it. It's just awesome to watch.
Yeah, very inspiring, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's what got me wanting to do it and then just not being able to yet because of it. Yes, last year was meant to be the one. Last year was meant to be the one. And then
So you're gonna compete yourself in the future?
Yeah, I just need to get my own health issues under wraps first, hopefully. So then yes, but again, I'm the same as you. It's getting pushed back and back. So like last year was meant to be the one, and then I was like, right, I'll go probably early mid next year. But now because I'm not training properly because of my own health issues, that's pushing it back. Because again, I want a really good, strong off season because I need to grow for what I want to do. So who knows? But it's a dream. It's in the pipeline. What'll be will be.
Things happen for a reason. I think as long as you've got a goal and a purpose set. Go for it. Like you say, you're going to have bumps in the road and things in the way, and I've certainly witnessed that. In and out off season, on stage, and operations and stuff, all kinds. But if you put your mind to it, and that is what goes back to, I didn't allow it to affect my training because I knew the chronic illness that I've got, it's not going to affect whether I go hard in the gym, whether I squat 100, whatever, or if I squat 60. It's only that it's getting past that mentality that, yes, I'm in pain right now, but it's not an injury pain. So it's not gonna make it worse. And that's my best advice to you as well, Luce, what you're going through. Try and manage that in the best way you can. And, go in with that mindset that actually this is not going to go away. It's not, I'm going to train to do what you want to do because you can overcome it. And it goes back to that. You're in control, not the other way around. And that's going to be, really important. But if you ever need any help or advice on it, of course, just, give me a shout. I'll be happy to get you on the stage.
Cheeky plug.
Be amazing.
But I think that comes to a nice end. But there is one thing we have to do. And you won't have guessed. If you've guessed this question, then you're a mind reader or you listen to the podcast because we end on a signature question every single time. It's just a signature question, bit of fun. And that is your favourite cereal, Michelle. Hit me up.
Oh, wow. This is easy. Cocoa Pops.
Oh, for God's sake. Typical bodybuilder.
Yeah, Cocoa Pops or hula hoops. Or
hula hoops.
No, Cheerios.
I was going to say they're crisps. I was like, you're putting milk on some cheese and onion and hula hoops. Can you imagine?
I think I just say that to the boys. I'm like, do you want hula hoops or Cocoa Pops, Weetabix? I just shout up to them.
Average choices. Average.
Cheerios are great when you're on prep, and if you have them dry, sounds a bit grim, but they feel, because they taste quite sweet, it's kind of like a bit of a diet hack. So and especially with the Cocoa Pops as well.
I used to eat dried Cheerios in my packed lunch. When other kids would be there with like the penguin bars, I'd be there with a little sandwich bag of Cheerios. And I was like, what the hell? Like, just try it. And in fairness, people get on it.
Yeah, hula hoops. There you go. Cheerio, aka
Love
Cheerios.
It. I think that brings us to a nice end. But thank you for jumping on the podcast. If people do want to follow you, based upon just the fact that you're awesome, or if they want to know more about your journey, because you do post about it, where can they find you on the socials? Yeah,
absolutely. Follow my journey. I've actually got a highlight for the endometriosis, my last journey with all the hospital things and all that. So you can actually go back, and there's a load of IGTV, me explaining how I got on with the doctors and how I got on with the scanning. So that'll be really cool for you. But it's at Team Bikini Queens. Find me on my main page, which is at Team Bikini Queens. I've also got a personal account as well, which is just Michelle Walker _coach. So you can find me on any of them. It'll direct you to the both. That would be complete. Yeah, it'd be awesome. So if you want to get in touch with me in any capacity, just drop me a DM.
Wicked. Right, let's wrap that all on there. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me on, Lucy. It's been a pleasure.
We'll
talking about all kinds.
Indeed, it's been an interesting one. We'll catch you on the next one.